Welcome back to week 6 of the Markidini crochet along. We're just going to prepare our stitch markers for our first block. So we have the previous week, week 5, over to the left. So we're going to be working on the second part of the week 1 blocks to finish up this larger block that we started last week. So on our chart here, this is the section we're working on for week 6. So for block 21, you want to count over 30 stitches or 30 loops, or if you wish, you can count from the outside border edge of the vertical line. We'll skip those 4 loops and we can mark the next loop. So you'll want to attach in behind and then pick up 30 loops across, making the first connection to the first row of the vertical line that we finished week 5 with. You'll also want to mark up the vertical line 12 rows, as our first block is 12 rows. So you can go ahead and pick up your loops and work a regular return pass, and I'll meet you back here for row 2 of block 21. So block 21 uses some familiar stitches again. We have TSS, the purl stitch, and the knit stitches. We also have some cables in blocks. All of them are 2 over 1 stitch cables, so we might not need that stitch holder if you're comfortable working these smaller ones with your hands. So starting with row 2, we'll make a simple stitch, a purl stitch, 4 knit, a purl, and so on. So we'll work that together. So starting with a simple stitch and a purl stitch, 4 knit, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and a purl stitch, and 6 TSS, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, purl stitch, 2 knit stitches, 1 and 2, a purl stitch, 6 TSS, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, a purl stitch, the 4 knit stitches again, 3 and 4 knit stitches, ending with a purl stitch and a TSS in that last stitch, and then joining to the second row up on the vertical line for our connection. So we should have the 32 loops on our hook, and we'll work a regular return pass. And that's row 2 complete. So row 3 have these cables again. So we're going to be picking up 3 stitches in a row, and for the forward pass cable, we'll work that together. So I'll work this first section as forward pass cables, and the next 2 I'll work as return pass cables. So starting row 3, simple stitch, purl stitch, and 2 knit, and then we'll work that first cable. So simple stitch, purl stitch, and 2 knit stitches, 1 and 2. Then for the forward pass cable, we take those 3 stitches off, the purl stitch falls to the back, put the knit stitches back on, cross the purl stitch behind, and back onto our hook. And then we work right into the next cable. So we've already worked in this stitch, so over into this next stitch we'll make 2 knit stitches, 1 and 2, and then a purl stitch. And to work the forward pass, we'll take those off, the knit stitches fall to the front, purl stitch goes back on, the knit stitches cross and back onto our hook. 5 TSS. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we'll do a purl stitch and 2 knit stitches. If you're working forward past cable, take those 3 off and make the cable now. Then I'll do 2 more knit stitches and a purl stitch, and again take those 3 loops off if you're working a forward past cable. 5 TSS, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Purl stitch and 2 knit stitches, 1, 2. Take those 3 stitches off for the forward past cable. 2 more knit stitches and a purl stitch, and that's the last cable. So if you're working forward past, take those 3 off and work your cable. Pick up that last stitch and then join to the vertical line. So 32 loops on your hook. So if you made all your cables in the forward pass, this will just be a regular return pass, and because they're small cables with just the 3 stitches, we don't need to do that chain 1 in between. If you have waited to do the cables in the return pass, I'll show you the first few of those cables. So we'll take off that TSS stitch, so we'll pull through 2, the connecting stitch and the TSS. Then we'll take the 4 loops off, the knit stitches fall to the front, purl stitch back on, cross the knit back onto our hook, working yarn back on, and work 1, 2, and 3 pull throughs. Take the next 4 loops off, put the knit stitches back on, cross the purl to the front, and then we'll work 1, 2, and 3. So we've just worked 2 return pass cables. We'll take the 5 TSS off, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and we'll take the next loops off, put the purl on, cross the knit in front, working yarn back on, return pass 1, 2, and 3. And then we're at the next set of stitches for the cables. So remove the 3 stitches, cross the purl behind, working yarn back on, return pass through those 3 loops, 1, 2, and 3. Then we'll take off the 5 TSS, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then if you haven't worked the forward pass cables, you'll need to remove these next 3 loops here and work the cable. And then we'll do the return pass through those 3 and pull the next 3 off for the last cable, and then work the return pass through those 3 and the remaining 2 for our row 3. Okay, so each row has cables in it for the rest until the 12th row. So just follow each row carefully, making the cables where they suggest and working your return passes, and I'll meet you here at the end of this block. So we're going to join in back at the edge of block 21 and working across the top in the back. Again, pick up those 30 loops across, join to the next row up on the vertical line, and you should have 32 loops on your hook. Then we'll just work that regular return pass all the way down the row, and work 2 more rows of TSS plus a bind off row to finish the first horizontal line for this week. So we just want to prepare for blocks 22 and the vertical line. So on top of the horizontal line we just completed, starting on this far side, we want to count over 13 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. And we'll mark that, the 13th and the 17th, 14, 15, 16, and 17. So for block 22, we're going to join our yarn just behind or between the 13th and 14th in the back, picking up the 13 loops across. So you can get ready for your color for block 22. So for block 22, I joined in the back of the 13th stitch, picked up my 13 loops across, and connected to the next line up on the vertical line for 15 loops on our hook. So we'll be working the block again that has 27 rows. So this is block 22. We'll be using TSS stitches, purl stitches, and that twisted knit stitch again. So we'll do the regular return pass for the foundation row that we just picked up. Then for row 2, 5 TSS, 3 purls, 5 TSS, and we'll work the same thing. So 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those rows are all the same. So you can go ahead and work those first 5 rows, and I'll meet you on row 6. So I've worked my first 5 rows. You can see the center part of those purl stitches in between the TSS stitches. Just a reminder too, you may wish to mark the 27th row up on the vertical line, which should match up with the top of the block over here. And that's to make sure that when we finish this block that we finish on the right line. So now we're going to work row 6 together. And it'll be the 4 TSS, 2 purl, 1 twisted knit, 2 purl, 4 TSS. So we'll work that one together. TSS in the first 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Purl stitch in 2, 1, and 2, and then 1 twisted knit. So pulling that front loop over, it's a little bit for mine because it's a purl stitch. You may need to help to find, remember to go in between the front loop and the back loop when we've pulled that front loop over. So 1 twisted knit and then 2 purl again, 1 and 2, ending with 4 TSS, 1, 2, 3, and 4, making our connection the next row up and working the regular return pass. So each row, remember, once we've made our connection to the vertical line, we'll have 15 loops on our hook. Each row has a regular return pass, so we'll just follow the chart to know where we're using TSS, TPS, or the twisted knit stitch. So you can go ahead and work through all 27 rows and make the bind off row at the end as well. Block 22 with our 27 rows and a bind off row at the top. So then we're going to grab our yarn for this vertical line. We will attach behind our other marked stitch on that 17th stitch. Ignoring the bind off stitches, we'll come across to the front to pick up these loops here. So we'll pick up 4 loops, and with the attachment we'll have 6 loops on our hook and work the 27 rows, but do not bind off. So for block 23, we're going to join just in the back behind this far edge of the horizontal line and pick up 13 loops across, make our connection to the first row of the vertical line, and regular return pass for the first row of block 23. So we're just going to work a simple pattern again with this block with some knit stitches and purl and some TSS stitches. So we'll start row 2 with 4 knit stitches, and then we'll alternate TSS, purl, TSS, purl. On the next row we'll start with 4 knit, and then we'll start past that with the purl stitch, TSS, and so on. So this will make a little bit of a honeycomb pattern beside where our knit stitches are. So we'll work row 2 and 3 together. So we'll start with 4 knit stitches for row 2. Remember, the knit stitches, we're going between those front and the back loops to pull up our loop. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then we'll start with a TSS, a simple stitch, purl stitch, and repeat that down the row. Simple, purl, simple, purl, simple, purl. Oops, let's try that once more. So purl, and end this row with a simple stitch. We'll make our connection to the second row up on that vertical line and regular return pass. So once we made that connection, we should have 15 loops on our hook, and then we'll work those loops off for a regular return pass to complete row 2. And then we'll just work row 3 together as well. So starting with those 4 knit stitches, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then this time we'll work a purl stitch first and simple. Purl and simple. Purl, simple, purl, simple, and ending row 3 with a purl stitch, connecting to the third row up on that vertical line for 15 loops on the hook, regular return pass. So you'll work one more row starting with those knit stitches, and then we'll have 2 rows of the alternating purl, simple, or simple purl. And then on row 7 you'll start with the purls and simple stitches and end the next 3 rows with the knit stitches. So you can go ahead and work all 27 rows of block 23, which should bring you to the end of the vertical line at the top, matching up those 27 rows, and work a bind off row at the end of this block as well. So 27 rows for block 23, bind off row to finish off at the end. So now we're going to come back to where we first started. So beside our first block, block 21, we want to join our yarn, and we're going to work a vertical line up the side of block 21, past the horizontal line, and up the side of block 23 as well. So we can go ahead and get ready for that. So down on this horizontal line beside where we worked our first block for this week, block 21, we are going to be working through these 4 loops of the vertical line just past our marked stitch. So we want to join in the back and then working over those bind off stitches at the top, we will work TSS in those 4 loops across the top of that vertical part of the line till we come to our marked stitch. Then in back of our first row of block 21, we will make the connection for 6 loops on our hook and then work the regular return pass for our first row of the vertical line. So we will just work this vertical line all the way up the side. So it will be 12 rows that we attach to block 21. So 12 rows on block 21. We'll make 3 rows on the horizontal line, and then these 27 rows beside the block we just finished, block 23. So you can go ahead and work that vertical line, making sure you have the right number of rows, and I will meet you at the top. Do not bind off or fasten off, as we'll work our horizontal line as well. So you'll have worked 12 rows plus 3 rows plus the 27 rows for a total of 42 rows on the vertical line. Then when we get to the top, you want to make a horizontal line, so we won't fasten off or bind off. We'll pick up 4 loops across the top of the vertical line, 13 across block 23, 4 more across this vertical line, and 13 across block 22. And then we'll make our connection to that vertical line before we work the return pass. So we'll have 36 loops on our hook when we start the return pass. So you can finish that return pass. You'll work 2 more rows of the TSS plus a bind off row to finish off this horizontal line. For block 24, we want to count over those, missing those first 4 vertical loops of the vertical line, or at the top of the horizontal line that we just finished. I've placed the marker in the 5th vertical loop across, join just between the 4th and the 5th stitch, and then pick up 30 loops all the way across in the back, and making the connection to the next vertical line. You should have 32 loops on your hook. To start block 24, we can go ahead and work the regular return pass, and then I'll help you out with row 2. So for block 24, we are going to be using several stitches. We'll be using the reverse stitch, simple stitch, purl stitch, and knit stitches. We also have some 3/3 cables. Sometimes the stitches are different in these cables. You can see how we have some TSS stitches and knit stitches, some purl and knit stitches. So we have to watch carefully which stitches are crossing to the front or the back. So in the pattern, you will see this chart that outlines the row number that we're on, and which stitches will fall to the front and which stitches will fall to the back. So the first couple ones we're used to the knit stitches falling to the front, but you'll notice on row 6 that there's TSS stitches in the cable and they will fall to the back. Row 9 and 10 particularly, or 9 and 12 I mean, we need to watch carefully that the purl stitches are actually falling to the front, and we're used to those always going to the back. So I'll help you with a few of these rows. For now, we're going to start with row 2 that does not have a cable, and we'll just start working across with our 6 reverse stitches to start. So the reverse stitches is like a TSS, but we're picking up the loop in the back instead of the front loop. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 reverse stitches, 3 TSS, 1, 2, 3, 3 purl, 1, 2, and 3, and then we'll work 6 knit stitches. Remembering the knit stitches is going between the front and the back loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 knit stitches. Then we'll reverse the stitches that we used and go back to the 3 purl stitches. 1, 2, and 3. 3 simple stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And then for the remainder of our stitches should be 6 reverse stitches to finish the row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Making our connection to the side, which should give us 32 loops on our hook. And you can go ahead and work a regular return pass, and then we'll work row 3 together for our first set of cables. For row 3, we will start the same way with the 6 reverse stitches. So every row begins and ends with these reverse stitches for this block. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then 3 3 TSS stitches. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to work 3 purl and 3 knit, and those 6 stitches will form our first cable. So for row 3, I'm going to demonstrate the cables in the forward pass. When we go to row 6, I'll demonstrate in the return pass. So you can go ahead to watch row 6 if you forget how to do it in the return pass, but we need to use the stitches here from row 3. So we'll start with 3 purls, 1, 2, and 3 purl stitches, followed by 3 knit stitches. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to take those 6 loops off the hook, put the purl stitches to the back on our stitch holder, and the 3 knit stitches back on our hook. Then we'll cross the purl stitches over, place them back on our hook for our first cable. And then right away the next 6 stitches will be part of the next cable. So 3 knit, 1, 2, and 3, and 3 purl stitches. 1, 2, and 3 purl stitches. We're going to take those 6 stitches off our hook. These knit stitches will stay to the front. Put the purl stitches back on the hook. Cross the knit stitches in front and place them back on your hook for our second cable. Then we'll finish out the row with 3 TSS stitches and our 6 reverse stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 reverse stitches. Make our connection. Then we can go ahead and work a regular return pass. So we took off our 6 reverse stitches plus the 3 TSS. So then we've reached our cable. If you did not work the forward pass cable, be sure to take those stitches off your hook, the next 6 stitches, and make the cable now. And then with the return pass, we will take off those 3 knit stitches of the cable, and then be sure to add that chain 1 to give us enough space for these 3 over 3 stitches to cross, and then taking off the 3 purl stitches. So that was our first cable, and now we've reached the second cable. So we take off the 3 purl stitches, 2 and 3, chain 1, and then take off the 3 knit stitches, 2 and 3. And then ready to just work the regular return pass for the remaining stitches. Now ready for row 4, we will work those 6 reverse stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 reverse stitches, 3 TSS, and then we'll have reached the cable. So we're going to work the knit stitches for the cable. 1, 2, and then on this third one we just need to be careful that we're not getting tangled up in those purl stitches that cross behind. So 3 knit stitches, then we'll work 6 purls. So the first 3 from the first cable, so 1, 2, and 3. And then making sure we find those next 3 purl stitches and work purl stitches in them. So 4, 5, and 6 purl stitches in between our knit stitches of the cable. And we'll finish up with the 3 knit stitches on this side of the cable. 1, 2, and 3 knit stitches, and ready to finish our row. 3 TSS and 6 reverse stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then we can make our connection, work a regular return pass. And you can go ahead and work row 4 exactly the same as we did for row 5, which is exactly the same as row 4, and I'll meet you back here for row 6. Okay, for row 6, I'm going to show these cables in the return pass this time, but we will start the same as every row with those 6 reverse stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then we'll do 3 TSS, 2, 3, and the 3 knit stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Now if you're working the forward pass cable, take off these 6 stitches that we just did and work the cable now, following the chart, of course, to know which stitches fall to the front. And then we'll work the 6 purl stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 3 knit. 1, 2, 3, 3 TSS. 1, 2, 3, and then ending with those 6 reverse stitches. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and make our connection. And then we'll start the return pass just taking off those first 6 loops. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then we're ready for our cable. So we want to put the knit stitches go to the front for this cable. So we take off those 6 loops, Knit stitches go on our stitch holder to the front. Put the TSS back on. Cross those knit stitches. And put them back on the hook. I have to do mine one at a time. There we go. And perch your working loop back on the hook. Okay, now these ones, I did find them easier to do in the forward pass this time. So you pick which one works easier for you. So we take off those 3 knit stitches, chain 1, and the 3 purl stitches. Or the 3 TSS stitches, I guess they were. And then the 6 purl, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we've reached the second cable. So we'll remove those loops from our hook, put the knit stitches on the stitch holder. Sorry, those are the TSS stitches on the stitch holder, which go to the back. Put the knit stitches back on, cross the cable, and put the working loop back on. Remove those 3 TSS, 1, 2, and 3, and make the chain 1, and then take the 3 knit stitches off to finish that second cable. And then we can take the remaining stitches off our hook. And that is the first 6 rows for block 24. So you can go ahead and work the remaining rows. We have 27 rows in this block. Again, referring to that chart in the pattern to know which stitches fall to the front and the back for our cable stitches. So you'll work cables on rows 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, and 24. Okay, so enjoy working this block, and I will see you here at the end. So to finish up week 6, we want to make another vertical line. So we'll come down beside block 24 and join to the far edge of the vertical line that's already there. Then reaching in front of the bind off row, we'll pull up our 4 loops, 3 and 4, and then make our connection to the first row of block 24. So as always with the vertical lines, we'll have 6 loops on our hook and make a regular return pass. And then we'll just TSS in every stitch, working our way up the side of block 24. So there'll be the 27 rows up to the top, and then I'll meet you up there. So when we've completed the vertical line, we're at that decision point again. If you are making the small blanket, you need to go ahead and bind off this vertical line, but that's for the small blanket only. For medium large sizes, work with me as we finish the horizontal line across the top. So we'll pick up the 4 loops across the vertical line, 30 loops across the top, make our connection to this vertical line for 36 loops on our hook. We'll work the regular return pass, and then 2 more rows of TSS, the bind off row, and then we will be finished week 6.